Hello, private practice owners. This is Lisa Wozniak with Woz Marketing with another episode of Private Practice Owner of the Month. And this month, we are celebrating Tasneem Abrahams. She has graciously agreed to join us all the way from South Africa, and we are honored to have her. Welcome, Tasneem.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for asking me to be a guest on your show.
Oh, we are honored to have you. So, Tasneem is a occupational therapist for a government-run school in South Africa. And as she got started in occupational therapy and working as a therapist, she noticed a number of other practitioners who were struggling in the marketing world, marketing their practice. And curiosity kind of got the better of Tasneem, and she began to explore different aspects of marketing, which led to the Private Practice Growth Club. And she was able to start a group there, and which grew to over 500 members in 2 months' time, just by delivering really relevant, superior content to her followers, which is always the name of the game, isn't it? Always wanting to deliver content that people resonate with the most. But one of the reasons that I got so excited when I saw you on Instagram, Tasneem, was I think there was a caption of you on a beach someplace, and you were batching 2 months worth of content at a time, and which just got me super excited. I am a big fan of batching content, but I don't know that I've ever done 2 months worth of content at a time, and that just impressed me so much. So I would love to learn, how did you come upon the idea of batching your content? And Lord, how do you do 2 months worth of content at a time?
Well, I would say, they say that necessity, breeds intent. So I have 4 kids and I have a full-time job, and so it really was because I needed to be more efficient with my time, because content creation takes a lot of time. And before you even have to take the time to create the content, I think what most people struggle with is just coming up with what the content needs to be in the first place.
So
And
true.
yeah, and I find that my best ideas come at a time that is not actually the best time to be, making notes or things. And I think, for many years, this was the first December holiday that I've gone away with my family and not taken my laptop along. The first time in years, because I've always been doing, like, something on the side and freelancing and writing this and doing that. And so I always needed to take my computer along. And this year, when we decided to go on holiday and I made the decision to leave my laptop at home, I must admit I was a bit anxious at first, because I was like, I need to create all this content and I need to do this and I need to do that. How am I going to do it? And so, yeah, I came up with a plan and a system of how I could enjoy my holiday, but still kind of have an avenue to, put my ideas down somewhere and put it to use, so that when I was back in the saddle, I could just roll out everything that needed to be done.
So how did that work? First of all, how did you do that? Did you do it on your phone? Were you
Yes,
able?
so I use an app. I use OneNote. So, some people might use Evernote, some people use OneNote, some people might even just use the notepad on their phone. In fact, it actually started out with just using the default notepad on your phone. So it started with that, but the notepad on your mobile only limits you to a certain amount of characters or something. And so I would run out of space on OneNote. And then I then decided, okay, well, I need an actual app that's in the cloud as well, so that I can access it from different devices. And so then I just started a OneNote account, and now I just do it in that app. So it meant that, because I always have my mobile with me, so it meant that, if I'm lying on the beach and I have an idea, I can take my mobile out and put it in the note, or lying in bed at night and some idea comes to me, wherever I am, I can quickly put the ideas down into a OneNote notebook.
So, how did you come up with so much content at one time? I mean, that's a lot of content.
So you know what? I used to be, so I'm a doer and I tend to kind of just jump head first into things. But I've learned over the years that there's so much value in data and research. And as a therapist, we tend to naturally be listeners and observers. And I realized that being a good content creator is kind of like being a counselor, where you have to listen to your audience and what their problems are. And your content actually will stem from that, because you need to provide them content that speaks to what their pain points are. So what would happen would be, I mean, all health professionals belong to Facebook groups and things related to their profession, usually to seek, just support and guidance around clinical things. But inevitably, what would happen in these groups, so I belong to quite a few of them, like allied health professional groups, OT specific groups. And what would often happen in these groups is that people would ask questions that would come up all the time, that I would notice that in the comments there's so many varying answers, or it's not really, their pain points aren't really being satisfied. Or it would be the same questions that would come up over and over again. And being a Facebook, the nature of a Facebook group, it's not categorized. So somebody would have asked something a month ago, and then the same question comes up again. So where do they go to actually access that same answer again and again and again? And so the OneNote actually came in, where when I noticed a question comes up, I would note it down in my notebook, in my OneNote notebook. Um, and so where the content actually came from was really just finding, these key topics that would come up, or questions that would come up as problems or things that people wanted to know about. And I actually then developed this method, which I call the content tree method. So if you think of a tree, it starts off with a little shoot, and then each shoot then develops a new shoot until you eventually get this tree with so many branches and fruit hanging off the different branches. So the idea of the content tree is that you start off with one key question or problem that your audience tends to ask a lot, and you come up with an answer to that in your mind, and then you break down that answer into very simple point form, so kind of like 10 points. Okay. And you answer each of those 10 points is a piece of content on its own. So if you are somebody using Instagram, for instance, you could start off one post with the question and ask, who else is struggling with this, and you would get engagement on that post. And then you would have 10 follow-up posts to that, which answers a different point to that answer. So you've now got 11 pieces of content, which you can post every day for 2 weeks. Or you can post twice a day for 1 week, whatever your frequency is. So that's how the first shoot of the tree really comes about. But then what I found was that within each point, you can also elaborate further. So if I can give you an example, one of the things that my audience struggle with is being helping professions. They tend to struggle a lot with having a business mindset because we aren't taught to be business owners. We're taught to be health professionals. So we don't think of ourselves as business owners. And one of the first things you need to do when you go into private practice is to establish a business mindset. Um, so, so the question would be, well, how do you develop a business mindset? So that would be your first post. Then there are 10 points. So I would research or think from my own experience. What is business mindset? What are the key points from experts, from my own experience, and create 10 different points on business mindset, and that is each an individual post. But then say you get a point that says that you need to be financially savvy, for example, or you need to embrace money mindset, and you need to embrace finances. You can't hide away from that if you want to be in business. That is a whole topic in its entirety.
Yeah.
So people might ask, well, how do you develop financial literacy, or what accounting tools should you use? And then you can take that as a separate piece of content and then flesh that into 10 on simple answers, one line answers, and create 10 individual posts from that. So what would happen is that each of your 10 answers can be another 10 posts, can be another 10 posts, which can be another 10 posts. And so the tree kind of grows. And that's how you can end up with like 30, 40 content ideas that you can then spread out over your schedule, and create something that's within your time bounds you can create for your audience.
Well, and what's so beautiful about the example that you gave is that's just that's just one question. You had mentioned that
Absolutely.
when you look at the questions that people ask you the most, what you were able to do is drill down a whole bunch of different posts and examples from just one question, answering just one question.
Absolutely.
And when you think about
Absolutely.
what the standard private practice owner gets asked on any given day, there's a whole bunch of questions that they get asked on any
Absolutely.
given day. So that could end up with, countless pieces of content when you drill that down into bite-sized nuggets of information. That is
Yeah.
just brilliant.
And I think the other thing with that is that, as I know, as health professionals, we tend to take for granted what we know. And it also helps us become better therapists because it trains us to simplify our answers and not overwhelm our audience with what they need to know. So,
Yes.
for example, I work in special education. And so, in that setting, you have parents who are your target audience, and they would have a lot of pain points around how they can help their children, whether it's with ADHD or with autism or dyslexia or whatever the case may be. And when they ask a question around, well, how can I help my child with ADHD be more focused? We tend to go into this whole spiel about, with all the different solutions, and, get very academic in our answers. By doing this, you actually then train yourself to simplify and break it into, well, how can I put this into 10 simple points or 10 simple steps? So say if one of your points is to look at your child's diet and monitor your child's diet. That can be one point, and you can elaborate a bit on that. But then you can take that one point, and that can be a whole other set of content because you can break that down further into, how do you look at your child's diet? What do you need to look for? How do you do how do you keep a food diary? All of those things. And by offering up the solutions or the information or the education in these smaller pieces of nuggets, it makes it easier for the parent now to consume, and they don't feel like they have to do all these things at once. You can give them one actionable step per post at a time, and they can go and do it and come back the next day for another step and another step. And so you can guide them, and they can start to see tangible transformations. And in so doing, they learn to trust you, and then they will be more likely to actually come to you for a service because they see that these small things are making tiny differences. So maybe if they come to you for treatment, for therapy, bring the child to you, they'll get more rapid um, assistance because now you would be working with them, tailored to them. So yeah,
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh. I love what you just said. I want to repeat parts of it because it's so powerful. You know, when you break that down into smaller chunks of information for people to absorb, they will continue to come back for more because they begin to see you as the industry expert in your field. And so
yeah,
you are the person that they're going to go to when they need help, and they will go to you for services. You get the client as a result of that. That is so powerful. I love that you
absolutely,
said that.
absolutely.
So now what was the biggest benefit that you found in batching so much content at one time?
So obviously there was the time saving factor because now you know you've got like this plan, right? So that was the content tree is really just about generating the ideas or the topics of your post. But now obviously what a lot of people struggle with is actually creating the content. So because say for Instagram you need to create an image and you need to have a caption and all of that. But what I found was now that I have batched the content in terms of what my topics are and scheduled it in, the next thing you can do in terms of batching is when you repurpose content. Because now remember, if I use the example of the question of what is business mindset, and then there's like a ten point answer, you can use that in various ways. You can use that as 10 individual posts. Then you can also take those 10 so what you can do is have like a template in Canva, for example, or create like like kind of slides where it's all the same background and you're just changing the answer, the point or whatever. And so that can be 10 individual points. Or you now already have all these posts that have the same kind of background, and you can now take that and convert it into a slideshow. And that slideshow can then be posted onto SlideShare in LinkedIn, for example. Or you can create the slideshow and create it into a PDF download, and you can then share it into your Facebook group, or you can create a little video file out of it and upload it into YouTube and even speak over it or speak through it. So it's one piece of content, or it's 10 pieces of content, but it also can be one piece of content that can be used in multiple platforms. And so it can really save you a lot of time. And that's really the biggest benefit. One, it's two big benefits. One, it gives you clear clarity about how you are speaking to your audience and what you want to speak to them about. And then two, it's a big time saver because you don't not spending all this time creating like individual pieces of content and thinking up what am I going to say. And it really gives you so much clarity and time. That's the biggest benefit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I just, there's so many wonderful nuggets of information that you shared that I'm excited about. So thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom with us, Tasneem. It's really been a pleasure. I
You're
know it's
welcome.
super late at night there too, so I appreciate you making the time for me.
No, you're absolutely welcome. And I just want to add, like, I think we get so caught up. absolutely content is important, but we get so caught up in this thing of, Gary Vee says we must create so much content and be everywhere all the time. And that may be true, but if you don't have the time and capacity, you can still be successful by just being a bit clever about your content. So like you mentioned in the beginning, that I grew my group to 500, and this is a private group. So the content I'm sharing in there is not even public. So what's happening is that the people in the group, so I mean, in my other groups, my professional groups, I don't invite anybody to the group. I create that 10-point slide from those 10 pieces of content, and I share the slide in, a Google slideshow into those groups, because it's information that they would find helpful. And on my last slide, I have a slide that has the URL of my closed Facebook group, and then suddenly I'll have 50 new members. And then secondly, people in my private group, I shared it to them, and they find it so valuable that they will invite their friends into the group. And that's how the group has grown. And so now I've got this closed group of people who I'm speaking directly to. And for me, it's so much more valuable having 500 or 1,000 people who are there to hear what you have to say than to have 20,000 people who just follow you because they like the look of your feed, you know? So really focus your efforts on where you go, what's energizing you. It doesn't energize me to post on Instagram. I prefer using that for my own personal, like a separate account. But in each, whatever account you have, whether it's your practice account or your professional account or in different platforms, focus your time and energy where your audience are and where you have the energy to spend there, where you don't mind answering people's comments and going in the DMs, and because that's actually where the business lies. The content is really just about helping people um, know, like, and trust you. But really, the business conversion doesn't happen there. It happens in them asking you a question about something you posted in your stories, or making a comment and you replying with a really thoughtful answer and not just liking it and a thumbs up. That's actually where you convert your audience into customers. So I just want to also just point that out. You batch your content, sure, but be very strategic about which platforms you're using and how you're using it. And don't think that you just have to be an influencer. You can totally have a successful practice without being an influencer. You can be an introvert and still be a successful practice owner. It's totally fine.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, at the end of the day, your influence and your growth will happen just as a natural extension of doing what you love and giving back to the people who
Yeah,
need it the most. And the rest will take
absolutely.
care of itself.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you again so much for your time. I have just absorbed embracing your wisdom and just soaking it up like a sponge. So thank you so, so much, Tasneem. It's really
You're
been a
welcome.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Well, folks, this is Lisa Wozniak with Woz Marketing, celebrating our private practice owner of the month, Tasneem Abrahams. To learn more about Tasneem, where can they go to find you?
So they can follow my Instagram account at Private Practice Growth Club. And then if they are an occupational therapist or are interested in special education, they can also follow my personal professional account, which is Taz Abrahams, TAS Abrahams.
Okay, fantastic. And is there a website that you'd like to share?
Yes, so my website is www.privatepracticegrowthclub.co.za.
Wonderful. Okay, we will go ahead and share that as well. Thank you so, so much. This is Lisa Wozniak with Woz Marketing, helping you navigate your yellow brick road. Now, if you're looking to join a private practice collaboration community, we have one on both Facebook and LinkedIn called Private Practice Marketing Mentors. We sure would love to have you. All right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and sign out. Thanks so much and have a great day. Bye for now.